Hey everyone, welcome to Wednesday DEVO for January 13, 2021. In the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verses 68 and 69, the disciples of Jesus ask him, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life, and we have believed and have come to know that you are the Holy One of God." Now, this came at one of the most crucial crossroads in the ministry of Jesus. We are accustomed to seeing him amaze the crowds and to frustrate the religious leaders, but in this shocking scene, the masses are confused and frustrated, and they begin to walk away in droves. And this happens right at a time when we would least expect it. This was the day after story to the feeding of the 5,000. He fed them one day, and they walked away the next. You see, Jesus knew why the crowds of people were coming back. And it wasn't because they knew the real meaning of the sign, but it was because they were hungry again and wanted more bread. It was their stomachs, their their physical need rather than their spiritual need that was bringing them back in search of Jesus. He knew that. And so in verse 26, he said, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you are seeking me not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves." Now, anyone in town could have baked them bread, but Jesus had offered them eternal life, and they were missing it. The reason why they were missing it is because they were spiritually dead. They were normal, fallen humans who had not yet accepted and received the gift of spiritual sight. So instead of seeing that the bread pointed to Jesus as the one who would feed their soul hungry for spiritual food forever, they asked if he could teach them how to make miracle bread like the bread that he had given them the day before. "If you really want to know God's work," Jesus answered them, "then believe me." Verse 28 says, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent." Then they just asked him for more bread again. Jesus was so patient with them, he gave them one more try. He said in verse 35, and this time as directly as he could, "I am the bread. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst." He was offering them infinite riches, but they were disappointed that he just wasn't handing out to them dollar bills. You see, their physical appetites were ruling the day for them. So instead of backing off, Jesus was willing to speak more truth, even though it was going to part the ways between he and many of them. Jesus knew well that if the masses missed the spiritual meaning of bread, then they would miss the meaning of eating his flesh and drinking his blood, and maybe even more so. But he would not let this need of his disciples, his true disciples, be dictated by pretenders among the masses of people. So, with the crowds already confused, he gave a preview of coming attractions, or in this case, coming detractions. He said that he made sure that they understood that he was not the Messiah that they were expecting through their human thoughts and ways, because God's thoughts and ways are much higher. This bread that came down from heaven was not going to make a beeline to the throne in Jerusalem. Rather, he was headed for the cross. Yes, he would reign and be king over the holy city, but from outside the gate, lifted up on the cross in all of its shame and abhorrence. Jesus is the bread of life, and the bread does not nourish until it is consumed. So he would give his own body to be consumed by death. His flesh would be torn, his blood would be spilled, precisely for the spiritual dead and the condemned people, just like those that were walking away. Then the ominous parting as they prepared to walk away. After this, many of his disciples turned back and no longer walked with him. That's verse 66. So at last comes this great truth. Jesus then turns to the 12, his disciples, And really, he turns to us as well. And he says, do you want to go away as well? Now, true to form, Simon Peter steps forward and speaks on behalf of the disciples that remain, not only for those then, but also for those now, us. And his words resonate in the hearts of those to whom the Father has granted true life. Verse 68 says, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. So, true disciples say with Peter, no, I can't walk away. No matter whether the crowds seem to be dispersing, no matter that some who once called themselves your disciples are turning back and no longer walking with you, no matter what the unbelieving world or disenchanted former believers think or say or do, we say with you, Peter, what else, where else shall we go? We will not turn away from life because the dead have turned away. There is no other place. There is no other person who gives true life and who is true life and who gives life eternally. So will you say with me today, as I say with Peter, Jesus, you have the words of eternal life. You are the Holy One of God. I want to be where you are. This is Tim Greenewalt, pastor, Rockwall Free Methodist Church. You have a great day. God bless.